Joining us is former military intelligence and security officer Philip Ingram. Good to see you. So what is going on with this grain deal? High on the agenda at the G20. Nothing really been sorted, has it?
G20, interesting body. This is the body to discuss this because it's got a global impact. But when we look at the G20, a big part of it is what's called the BRICS countries. So we've got Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, Russia's in there, China's there. They're not at this G20 summit, but they either sit on the fence or generally don't condemn what Russia is doing inside Ukraine. And then we've got the EU and Western countries and all the rest of it. So for the G20 to come up with a statement, which I understand they put out, calling for this grain deal to be brought back in again, is quite strong given that the diversity that's in there. And if we look at the impact of what that is from a global perspective and how it looks at it, the grain that comes out of Ukraine is about 10% of the world's supply for many bits and pieces. It goes to 45 of the poorest countries around the world. And whenever the grain deal, which had been negotiated by President Erdogan, the United Nations and Russia, of course, in July 22, whenever he stopped it in July 23, in that interim period, there's 33 million tonnes of grain exported. We saw the impact before it had been negotiated on world food prices. It's hurting the poorest across the globe.
Turning to Ukraine itself, what's happening right now on the ground as we speak? Well,
at the minute, the counteroffensive is ongoing. Too much commentary is focusing on how much the Ukrainians are taking back physically on territory. And I'll go on to that in a moment. But they're continuing their attacks, countering Russians' counterattacks in Kupiansk, continuing to attack Bakhmut and south of that, and then into Zaporizhia. But from a bigger perspective, they're taking the fight elsewhere. And if we look at what's been happening in Russia and elsewhere over, and this is just since May this year, we've got attacking strategic bombers at Peskov Airport, drone attacks into Moscow, electronics supplying defence just outside Moscow being attacked, freight trains bringing supplies down into Ukraine being derailed and attacked, and oil refineries in Crimea being attacked. That all impacts Russia's ability to prosecute its operations. So we've got the Ukrainians fighting in from the front, making small, slow but steady progress, but wrecking Russia's ability to support it from behind. They're attacking from both ends and making real progress from that perspective.
And focusing, as you were mentioning there, what's going on in and around Zaporizhia?
Yeah, well, getting into the tactical bits, we've got a really big front line here, about 250 kilometres. And the Ukrainians are attacking down in Zaporizhia through Robotyne. That's where they're making the most advances at the moment, probably aiming to get to Tokmak and to cut that land bridge from Crimea up into Russia. But they're also attacking up into Advika and to the south of Bakhmut. Now, what this does is it gives the Russians a dilemma. The Russians are trying to concentrate their reserve forces to see where they can counter the Ukrainians and look at that. But this huge distance, they don't know whether they can get the reserve to go into Advika or have to take them down towards Tokmak. That's giving the Russian commanders real dilemma. And when they do move, it's inside the range of the Ukrainian HIMARS missiles, and they're destroying a lot of those convoys.
All right, Philip, for now, thank you very much.